Nicole, when was the last time you listened to your gut?
I always do, because we know there's a lot of misleading health advice out there, and most of what we're taught about food is wrong. Did you know that Big Food even pays TikTok influencers to say that ultra-processed foods are healthy? Well, they're not.
My God, that is shocking. It's no wonder that 1 in 8 people globally, by the way, that's over 1 billion people if you don't want to do the maths, are living with obesity.
Our sponsor Zoe understands that our health is suffering, and it's time we listened to our gut.
They make your gut health their business. And as we've learnt in over 5 years of doing this pod, gut health is key to overall health.
Your Zoe membership starts by testing your gut health, backed by one of the world's largest microbiome databases and most scientifically advanced at-home gut health tests. Zoe gives you proven science whenever you need it.
Listen, we know better than anyone else being in the self-care space that the start of every new year is noisy with health advice that is often just full of hot air and rubbish. But Zoe is the solution that you can trust.
Zoe is the science and nutrition company leading a movement to transform the health of millions, and Zoe membership has been proven by a randomized controlled trial, giving you the solutions to listen to your gut, make smarter food choices, and change your health for life.
Go to Zoe.com and find out what Zoe membership could do for you. And because you listen to Self-Care Club, you can use the exclusive code SELFCARE10 to get 10% off membership. As a Zoe member, you'll get an at-home test kit and personalised nutrition programme to help you make smarter food choices that support your gut. That's Zoe.com. Use code SELFCARE10 at checkout. Trust your gut. Trust Zoe.
When you think about super successful businesses that are selling through the roof like Heinz or Mattel, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But there's a secret. The business behind the business making selling simple for them and buying simple for their customers. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout as Heinz and Mattel. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/promo, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/promo to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/promo.
This episode is sponsored by Zoe.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nicole Goodman.
And I'm Laura Mishcon, and this is Self-Care Club. Today, we are delighted to welcome Katie Taylor to the show. Katie is a leading voice in the nationwide conversation around midlife and menopause. Motivated by her own debilitating experience of perimenopause and years of misdiagnosis, Katie founded her multi-award-winning platform, the Latte Lounge, an online community for women providing support, information, and signposting for midlife health and well-being. Katie is the host and founder of the Midlife and Menopause Uncovered podcast and the co-founder of the Latte Lounge's online flagship event, the Midlife Festival. Her book, Midlife Matters, comes out on the 6th of March. It's an all-encompassing guide for midlife women exploring the key areas of health, well-being, nutrition, beauty, sex and relationships, work, life and finance with warmth and honesty, with advice from over 45 experts in a Q&A format. Katie, welcome to Self-Care Club.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's lovely to have you.
Well, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, haven't we?
Yeah,
and
it's so lovely. I think we've sort of been in the same space for ages.
Yeah.
We've never actually connected. So, well, Lauren and I have, but yeah.
Well, I've only just found that out.
They kept it a secret from me.
So you're here to talk about your book, Midlife Matters.
Yes.
Can you give us, I know Lauren said something in the intro, but we'd love to hear it from you. What is an overview of what we can expect when reading the book?
So, I mean, Midlife Matters is really sort of taken 10 years of my Latte Lounge work and I've put it in one place. And I think what happened is, I think through my own experience of misdiagnosed perimenopause, one of the worst things for me was that kind of lack of information, lack of support and feeling like I was completely alone. And through that experience and having sort of built a website and run a podcast and festival, I've worked with so many amazing experts over my time, and I just really wanted to get them sort of all together into one place. And it wasn't really my idea. I mean, I love writing and I've always wanted to write a book, but actually unbeknown to me, 2.5 years ago, there was a lady who was in my Facebook group who was a literary editor, a literary agent called Emily. And she messaged me privately and said, have you ever thought about writing a book and bringing all this together? And I said, look, I would love to, but I wouldn't know where to start. And, I'm so busy juggling everything else. It just sounds so overwhelming. So it was her idea, and we met in a little coffee shop and we sort of plotted out this proposal. And I didn't think anything would come of it because, you sort of see all these famous people and celebrities and I'm just sort of me and, nobody famous or anything. And so I just thought that would be it. And then about 2 months later, she said, I've got some fantastic news. Dahl and Kindersley, who are part of Penguin Random House, love this idea and want to commission you to do this book. So it was like, wow, okay, that's scary, but yeah,
amazing.
I've got to do it now.
Well, it's an important conversation.
Yeah.
And although I'm sure in your time of doing the Latte Lounge that the menopause spaces must have changed hugely. And do you feel like, well, actually, I'd like to know your opinion on that. Like, how has it changed and where are the gaps still?
It's changed massively. I mean, when I started the Latte Lounge, that was 2016, there was nobody talking about it. That's why I set it up, because I just couldn't find any information online.
About the menopause specifically.
About perimenopause, menopause, but also all sort of midlife women's health in particular, because I come from a medical family. My father's a breast cancer professor. All his brothers are medical doctors and professors. So I've always felt very comfortable in that space, and they're all big communicators. And that kind of rubbed off on me. I was never very good at science, but I was always a communicator and I loved writing. And I think what happened was I wanted to look after the women that came to this Facebook group very responsibly. So women are, you know what it's like, women are really good at giving their own advice to each other, but it's not necessarily always the correct evidence-based advice. And I was looking at a lot of these posts and people saying, well, shake a tree or hold a crystal and your breast cancer will be cured. And I was like, eek, okay, let's hang on a minute. I'm going to bring together lots of leading experts, and so that I can support these women, I can signpost them if they want to be signposted, sort of responsibly. And so that was sort of the background. And I did connect with another wonderful human, Diane Danzybrink, through my Facebook group, who set up the Make Menopause Matter campaign. And together we wanted to we really got each other. And her campaign aim was to basically, there were 3 campaign aims, and one was to have menopause on the medical school curriculum, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
It is now, but that's another conversation. It wasn't on the English school curriculum, and workplace policies were just not even a thing. I know. So,
and this is only 9 years ago. It's all very recent.
Yeah, 9 years ago. And all this happened because in 2002 there was this Women's Health Initiative report which had wrongly said that for women on HRT who were doing really well, there was a very high risk of breast cancer. And so everyone came off. And
fell off a cliff, basically.
And for those that were doing really well on it, and doctors were too scared to prescribe it. So I think what's happened is doing this campaigning work with Diana and lots of people who then started sharing their own stories through, Davina McCall's documentary, that it all blew up. And now it's a very different space. And I think the problem we're feeling now is that we had to swing that pendulum right to the other side to reassure women that if you wanted to go on HRT, that it was safe. And it was just that noise became incredibly loud, and that was important. But now the pendulum has needed to shift a little bit back to the middle to include nutrition and exercise and, just overall well-being. So it's great. There's loads of people talking about everything, many perimenopause and menopause now, but you just have to be selective about where you
get
choose.
your info.
Yeah, exactly, where you get your info.
Can you tell me a little bit about your own journey? Because you said you were misdiagnosed, and I think because we have a lot of younger listeners on this show who aren't yet in perimenopause, and I think it's just quite interesting for everyone to be aware of what can happen.
Yeah, so look, I was 43, very busy mum, 4 kids, working, loved my job. And what happened was over a 4-year period, so from the age of 43 to 47, I started feeling this whole sort of host of seemingly unrelated symptoms. So I had this sort of brain fog where I'd be at work and I'd be looking at a budget or some marketing campaign we were working on. And it was like reading a different language. I was very emotional. I was crying all the time. I felt like I was walking in sticky treacle, like literally every step to walk the kids to school felt like I was climbing Mount Everest. And I was very depressed, and I'm not a depressed person. I'm quite upbeat and I'm very capable of juggling a lot of things. And I kept going back to my doctor and they said, well, you're suffering with depression, you're overweight, so lose weight, get fit and maybe work part-time.
Oh my God, I can't,
Did you get offered antidepressants?
I got offered antidepressants and I popped them in a drawer and I just said, look, I don't think I'm depressed. I'm very fortunate. I've got a really supportive husband. I've got a lovely job. You know, my life is good. And they're like, yeah, but you're just trying to have it all and you can't. And the thing that shocked me the most was that I wasn't having hot flushes and I was still having periods. So you can kind of understand, can't you, that they wouldn't have necessarily put two and two together. Because in those days, you know, menopause is literally some woman who's sitting in a corner fanning herself, who's having a hot flush. And because I wasn't, therefore,
and her periods have stopped.
Yes.
Not even that they're changed,
and
she's stopped.
And she's 50.
Yeah, and she's well into her
51.
50s.
Yeah.
And actually, for those that are listening, menopause is literally one day. It's 1 year and 1 day till your period stops. So actually, we need to be talking about almost this decade before. And some women will be fine, absolutely fine. And I'm honestly delighted for you. But what women need to understand, and especially younger women, is even in your 30s into your 40s, your hormone levels are going to fluctuate all the time. And so those feelings you feel during your period, that kind of anger or low mood or just no energy, that continues. And it's only an issue if it's affecting your life. I gave up my job. I used to lie on a couch all day long. I literally was a hermit.
Oh, Katie.
I mean, it was just, my life was rubbish at that time. And then it was my dad who finally, I mean, I wish I'd spoken to him earlier, who sort of said, look, I think this is possibly hormonal. Let's get you seen by a gynecologist specialises in menopause. And within 10 minutes, she said, I had aching joints, I had heart palpitations, I had anxiety. She said, this is all perimenopause, explain why, and recommended HRT, which for me was the right option. And I think what that did is once I started to feel better, and it happened fairly soon, in a few weeks, then I could engage in healthy eating. Then I could engage in exercise. Then I could look at my job and my kids and think, am I happy? Is this all?
Well, you could think clearly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's just it. You're just in this zone. The only way I can describe it is I had no joy in life, and yet I knew I should. Like I was watching some comedian, I can't remember who it was now, I think it was Michael McIntyre, I've always found hilarious. Yeah. And everyone around me was dying with laughter. We were in the audience, and I was just thinking, that's not funny.
Just flat.
Flat. Exactly.
Yeah.
Flat is it. That's the word, just flat. And so this isn't meant to scare women. This is just, I think, and this is why I was so happy to do this book, that the more information you have and the more prepared you can be and to know what's coming and what's out there to help you, then the better, more informed, the better, you will be when you get there.
And also that you don't need to suffer. We did a month of shows on menopause, and we had brilliant doctors. We had a cardiologist, we had Dame Leslie Regan in. We had some fabulous women in to speak about it. And I think that was the main takeaway, was like, there's a multitude of things that can happen. They might not happen, but they could happen. Yes. But you don't have to put up with them.
No, exactly that. And I think I was so fortunate growing up, in a medical family, and it was anytime anything was wrong with any of us, Dad or my uncles would say, oh, speak to so-and-so, you speak to so-and-so. So I kind of thought, well, I want to be that connector, because most women don't have that at their hands. And so being able to speak to all these experts and also campaign for change, and in the workplace and just, generally at government level with Diane, has been really empowering for me, because I feel like no one else is going to, and no one else needs, and hopefully will never suffer again. And change has happened, through Diane's campaign. It's now on the English school curriculum.
That's amazing.
Yeah, GPs since last year are now being taught it as mandatory, and so loads of us are now doing talks to help women to stay in the workplace and support employers to keep them in the workplace. So the changes are happening. And I want this book to be really, it's a positive book. It's a very easy, I'll just quickly, can I show?
Yes.
Show yeah. Don't know which way it is, that way.
There you go.
It's a very positive and empowering book because it's a reference book. And there's a Q&A from every expert. And a bit like a podcast, I've asked some questions that I think everyone else would want to know in very easy to understand language.
Yeah.
So that if you're not affected by menopause, but say you're affected with your relationship, maybe you're going through a divorce, sadly, or maybe you're struggling with your finances, or you want a career change. Everything, it's a bit like a Bible. Like when we had babies, we had the what to expect when expecting. This is like that next bit.
Yes.
And you can just dip into the bit that is relevant to you. And there's lots of like really lovely things like fashion and beauty. We've got Ruby Hammer MB's written a bit about beauty, and hair loss, hair thinning is very common in midlife. So we've got some fantastic experts in there. And yeah, I just kind of hope it will help.
So it's like a guide to guiding you through your midlife and how you can do it in a more knowledgeable and empowering way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also in the back, I've put all the resources that I've ever sort of accumulated over this last decade. So there really should be no scrambling about needed. Like everything's in there, from what books to read to what podcasts to listen to, what experts to go to, and how to get that hand-holding support from someone like me, which won't cost you anything, because there's lots of women, in this country that have no time, limited budget. Some people are not on the internet or website, so this book will sort of show them who they can speak to and how they can get in touch. So hopefully.
Lauren, you know me, and you know when it comes to food, I trust my gut. And I also trust Zoe, the leading science and nutrition company.
All the nutritionists we've spoken to on this show have highlighted just how much misleading information is out there when it comes to food. Things like the claims that you see on packaging, like low sugar and nothing artificial.
Yeah.
These are often actually a sign to avoid these foods. Ever noticed a health claim on fresh fruit?
No!
Well, then you get my point.
It's completely understandable why there's a lot of distrust and wondering who you should turn to for accurate information.
Well, it's simple. We use Zoe.
Backed by one of the world's largest microbiome databases and most scientifically advanced at-home gut health tests, Zoe gives you proven science whenever you need it.
Go to Zoe.com and find out what Zoe membership could do for you. And because you listen to Self-Care Club Clubbers, you can use the exclusive code SELFCARE10 at checkout to get 10% off membership. As a Zoe member, you'll get an at-home test kit and personalised nutrition programme to help you make smarter food choices that support your gut. That's Zoe.com. Use code SELFCARE10 at checkout. Trust your gut. Trust Zoe.
What is Dax, are you?
Tracking all our cars on Carvana Value Tracker on all our devices? Yes, Kristen, yes, I am.
Well, I've been looking for my phone for...
In Dax's domain, we see all. So we always know what our cars are worth.
All of them?
All of them. Value surge, trucks up 3.9%.
That's a great offer.
I know. Sell?
Sell.
Track your car's value with Carvana Value Tracker today.
Yeah, sure thing.
Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yep.
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.
The one thing I always find really interesting, I'm obsessed with the perimenopause. I talk about it all day long because I myself have had a very up and down journey with it, have I not? And it's still not, it's going to be ongoing. I've started to accept the fact that I don't just stick a patch on and everything's okay. I'm just not one of those women.
No.
So I talk about it a lot. I think about it a lot. I'm obviously very invested in my self-care and how I can be mentally well, physically well, emotionally well all the time. And so when I speak to my peers about it, there are still, and I find this astounding, as much as there has been so much noise about all of this and about the menopause, there are women that still just don't know. They still don't know that HRT is safe. They still don't know that they might need HRT. They still don't know what the symptoms they should expect in perimenopause. Like you said, people think the amount of women that have said to me, but I'm still getting regular periods.
Yeah.
And I don't get hot sweats. It's like there's like 80 symptoms rather than just 2. So I think the work that you are doing and have done is so imperative for women. And this book, I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy. I really cannot wait.
Oh, thank you.
And I just think it's so important.
Well, it is, and you're right. I think women think that they need to wait until they've got no periods before they do anything. And the thing is about, if you want to go on HRT, and you can, because obviously a lot of women don't want to, and perhaps they can't for medical reasons. It's not just about symptom control. It's actually about long-term health as well. So HRT has proven to, reduced osteoporosis, which, we don't think about, I'm not going to break a bone. Well, unfortunately, after, 50, our bones become fragile. Now, yes, you must and you should do weight training, absolutely. And I don't mean, in the gym but just strengthening those muscles, because we're losing so much muscle mass, but also it helps with lowering the risk of things like heart disease and diabetes, and there's lots of research now into is it also potentially lowering the chance of things like dementia. So there's more to it than just symptom relief.
Agreed.
And actually the earlier you get on it, the more the benefit, because there does become a time when potentially you're not going to get those benefits because, I don't know, maybe your arteries have hardened and it's too late or whatever it is. So I'm not saying it's a cure-all. It's not. Look, my symptoms are really well managed. I've had the most, and I'm not going to go into it on this, but I've had a really hard 18 months for lots of reasons, things with my kids, things with both our parents, general things going on in the world. And my self-care, I'm embarrassed to say, has dropped to the bottom of the list this year. And I've let myself go. I was at my fittest and healthiest a year ago. And now I'm not. Now, so my symptoms are controlled, but it's in my own power I still need to look after my health because my long-term health demands it. So again, in this book, it's about acknowledging that we do fall off the bandwagon because life's not easy. I've had some fabulous years and I've had some really shitty years like everyone else. And you just have to realise that you're not alone. And when you do get some headspace, that looking after yourself is a lot more than just an HRT patch. Which you guys are the best at. I mean, this is what you talk about.
It's a funny time, isn't it, midlife? Because you're not needed physically by your children if you have children in the way that you are. It's not so physically demanding, but bigger kids, bigger problems. Yeah. So it's not as easy as I can't potty train them or they won't eat broccoli. It gets more serious.
Mine still won't eat broccoli.
Well, okay. And on the other scale of it, I'm very lucky. My parents are still very young and they're very healthy, but lots of people have got that. They're in that sandwich place, right, where their parents are aging or they're not well, and they've also got children who are older who have different needs, not the same needs, and you're in this kind of, it is a real shift of life because your identity in so many ways changes.
And you've hit the nail on the head. And I think what I love about this book is I think it's hopefully will sit on people's coffee tables and help them for at least 20 years, because this book is a fabulous gift as a sort of for a 40th birthday present and a 50th birthday present. But how I felt at 47 once I was helped was amazing, and I was full of energy and I was raring to go, and the Latte Lounge was firing from all cylinders and my kids were doing great and our parents were great. I'm now 55 and it's really helpful for me now, some of the bits that weren't relevant when I was 43. And for my friends, some of my friends a decade ago didn't need certain sections of this book, and now they do.
Yeah.
There's a whole section on caring for aging parents, for example. Now, I didn't need that, and thank God I still don't quite yet, but my husband does. And there's stuff in there about you wouldn't think about in your 40s, looking for care homes and navigating that whole thing. And children's mental health. Like, my kids have had so many different challenges that have, literally come out of the blue. So I just hope that this book sort of has a good sort of 20-year lifespan for people that they just can dip in and out of.
It's a reassessment, isn't it? Because also if you're still married or married to the person who you had your children with and have been with for a long time, your roles change, your marriage changes, you're kind of looking into what the future might look like when your children no longer live with you. And I do remember, friends who are older than me going through that phase where their kids are leaving and they were feeling very hormonal and worrying about that marriage. And, a lot of that was anxiety based in hormone imbalance rather than there was an actual problem in the marriage. But it's a real time to kind of reassess everything. And that's not always, it's not always easy or straightforward.
No, absolutely. Especially putting you, this is why your podcast is so fantastic, because it is so important to put ourselves first, but trying to find that tiny bit of time. There's a section in the book on things like mindfulness and meditation and hypnotherapy and treatments, skin and treatments and taking breaks and career change. Like, a lot of us reevaluating, well, what am I going to do now? Because I'm not a dried up old thing now, and I've got a lot of life left to live. So, I think you're right. It's just a juggle, and even for women that don't have kids, and there's a lot of the Latte Lounge community who don't have children for whatever reason they don't want or they couldn't, they still need to be able to look after themselves and their parents if they're still alive and focus on themselves. So I think the purpose of the Latte Lounge and the purpose of this book is actually to shine a spotlight on us, because no one does that. You guys do it brilliantly, but most people don't, because we're just too busy caring for everyone else. So this is about, take it to bed with you, or just sit on the couch on a Sunday with a coffee and just kind of taking that knowledge as and when you need it, not all at once, whenever, it helps, really.
It's this constant reminder, isn't it? Because when you're in those childbearing years, you're busy and you're not thinking about yourself. So it's this constant, you always come back to yourself, and you always have to come back to yourself, whether that's your mental health or your physical health or your self-care, or it doesn't matter what it is. There's always this question that you have to keep asking yourself is, am I okay? Like, what do I need today? What do I need right now? And I think we're so bad at asking that question. What I like about your book is if I say, am I okay? What do I need today? The answer is going to be from an expert in your book.
Absolutely. And these are brilliant experts. We've got the president of the International Menopause Society, Professor Nick Panay, who's written the menopause section in particular. But we've got sort of, a leading divorce lawyer in there. We've got leading dermatologists and nutritionists and dietitians and leading, heart specialists. These are people that you'd never be able to have access to, especially if you don't have maybe private health insurance. And so I think it's just important, as you say, to bring it back to yourself, because we just really don't do that enough. Hopefully it will just really help people. And, we've got Liz Earle very kindly put a little sort of dedication testimonial on the front, and Andrew McLean on the back. And these are women who are in the public eye that I've been lucky over the years to collaborate with. And I think it just means quite a lot to me, because I'm not being self-deprecating, but you have this imposter syndrome. Well, look, who am I? I'm a nobody. But actually, they really, the fact that they rate it and that they trust me to act as the narrator through this guide and not only share my own stories, I've brought lots of women's stories, albeit anonymously, into the book, a lot through each chapter, who have shared their own sort of struggles and stories, and also their positive. It is an uplifting, positive book, actually.
What are the most common?
I was just about to
themes
ask this.
that women. Yeah. I know it's kind of divided into 4 sections, isn't it? It's kind of career and finance, and then relationships and sex. And
then, I mean, so the first section, I'm just going to open it so I don't miss anything. The first section is called health, and we cover menopause, mental health, brain health, reproductive and pelvic health, gynecological and breast cancers. Now, the gynecological section is written by Athena Lamnitsos, who is the CEO of the Eva Pill, which is the Latte Lounge's charity partner. And that section's unbelievably helpful because I don't want people to worry, but it just gives you things to look out for because gynecological cancers are very hard to
very hard to
diagnose. Yeah. So, and then we've got heart health, musculoskeletal health, and then a section on preventative health checks. And I'm a big advocate of looking after yourself, but that doesn't mean go off and have every single test and screening because then that can cause health anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
But just be aware of what's there. And then the wellbeing section is lovely because that's diet and nutrition, fitness, sleep, restoring calm, and self-care. And the restoring calm is that kind of mindfulness, whether it's meditation or hypnotherapy or things that you can do, talking therapies, that kind of stuff. And then, as you said, the personal life section is sex and relationships, partnership problems, friendships, which is something people don't talk about, girlfriends.
I'm very interested in that. We also did a mini series on friendships, but I'm very interested in how you found that, how friendships have changed through midlife and what your take is and what other women have said about that.
That's, and I mean, I'll talk about the last section in a minute, but that section's written by a wonderful journalist called Claire Cohen, who's written her own book on friendships. And I think what happens with friendships, especially if you get married, is that you're so busy, bringing up kids and stuff that you desperately try to see everyone in your life. But sometimes it's a juggle to stay in touch. And also your life choices and theirs may not match up at the same time. You might be having different kids at different times or different issues. Some friends are getting divorced, some are doing fine. And then you make new friends, you make new friends through your kids and through your work and through your school or hobbies. So it is hard I'm so used to being one of those people that wants to give 150% of myself to everyone. But when you've got
limited time.
Yeah. And then you feel like a failure. Like I feel like so bad when I haven't returned a phone call or I just haven't been in touch with a friend. But
so
I think,
do I.
Yeah, it's
so
awful.
And it's such a waste of time because then you phone, they're like, fine. They're just happy to hear from you.
Exactly. And then when you see each other, it's like things have just carry on as they were. So don't beat yourself up about that because we're all human and nobody means to drop friends unless, they're very, having a toxic effect on your life. But it was a really interesting chapter, made me look at my own friendships, past and present, and sort of made me smile because we need all our friends, but our girlfriends are like our cheerleaders and they're there through thick and thin. So that's a fabulous chapter. And literally the only other thing I didn't mention was Family Matters, which is really about aging parents and kids. And there's a section on grief because sadly in midlife, we are going to lose people. We may have already.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about it. And actually, I had the CEO of Grief Encounter charity, which deals with losing. I mean, it was set up for people that had lost young people or parents had passed away. But, whether you've lost a parent or a partner, sadly, or even a friend, that's a really helpful chapter. And then at the end is just a section on work and finances, work-life balance, whether it's menopause in the workplace, changing careers, and then finances, which nobody talks about actually, is planning for future, how to keep on top of your finances. I
think for women, that's a particularly important chapter because I think women will go, oh, no, financing, oh, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
That's too difficult, too scary, too numbery. But it's very important.
And there's brilliant advice in there from Eileen Adamson. I met her when I first set up the Facebook group. She was writing blogs for my website. And there's some brilliant apps out there now. There's almost no excuse not to be able to keep on top because there's some really good advice in there on saving for your future and even thinking about, nobody wants to think about retirement, but we kind of need to now. And again, the more knowledge you have, the more empowered you feel, the less scary life feels. So,
So we're all about self-care on here, of course. And we always like to ask our guests what their take is on self-care. So I'm going to ask you, Katie, like, what does self-care mean to you? And what advice do you have for all the women on your platform of how they can invest more into their self-care and well-being?
Look, I think what I said before is be brutally honest. Nobody has it perfect. You know, I've struggled with my weight my whole life, like a lot of women in the 80s. You know, it was all about diet and step aerobics and finding what, you know, and I think what I've learned from some of my experts in particular is that the way we eat and the way we exercise now is much more about nurturing your body for long-term health.
Yes.
So it's not about trying to fit into a dress, although, you know, obviously that's always in the back of our minds when there's an event coming up, but it's about, you know, being fit and healthy to live as long as you can and to help all and be there for everyone that relies on you. So look, I've really let myself personally go from a self-care point of view this year, but I'm okay about that in some ways because I just couldn't, it was too much to juggle.
Yeah, but self-compassion is part of self-care.
Yes.
So if you're able to not beat yourself up about that, then that's also okay.
Absolutely. But I did something this week.
She says she doesn't give herself a shred of self-compassion, may I ask?
Oh,
So that was
really?
beautiful advice.
Thank you.
Take it for yourself.
Well, you two girls look and are fabulous. So you're doing something right. And also there's that guilty thing, like, oh my God, I couldn't possibly do something for myself. That's so selfish. But that old adage is self-care is actually vital. It's not selfish. And I did something that I got the confidence to do 2 weeks ago that was advice in my book it was actually Louise Minchin has written a thing about trying some challenges and just shaking life up a bit. I used to love bike riding as a kid. I love it. And I've always wanted to do it, but I've been too scared because I think sometimes menopause and perimenopause makes you a little bit scared to try something new. And I looked online and I found a local cycling club. And I said, is there anyone that lives near me that could just take me out? I don't want to be in a group. I just want to see if I still like it. And I met this lovely lady who literally lives down the road from me. And we've been out together 3 times. And honestly,
that's so nice.
I love it. I felt childlike again. I felt free and we were seeing the countryside and we were laughing and we were chatting and, you know, and I was out of breath, but in a good way. And I came back really invigorated. And I thought that was good because I connected with a new person who was lovely. I had fresh air. We've been chatting and it was exercise without feeling like, oh, I've got to exercise.
Well, you were doing something you love.
Yes, but I didn't know, you know, it's a bit like...
something that scared you a bit, which is also really good. Yeah.
And actually don't be scared to try something because what's the worst that can happen? I say to my kids, what is the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you fall off your bike. Literally, and you get back on. And so... yeah, just don't, when you have a minute, just try and find something for you. And, you know, I got back into reading as well the last couple of months. I've never got a minute to read. And just think anything. It doesn't have to be about skincare, lovely if it is, but just some time where you just say, you know what, kids and partner and friends, I'm actually just turning my phone off for an hour and I'm just going to do something for me.
Yeah. You need a recharge. Everyone needs a recharge.
Yeah. And look, mobile phone, running an online platform is not been very healthy for me. It's helped a lot of women. But for me personally, it's kept me indoors behind a screen for nearly 10 years, pretty much on my own because everything's on Zoom. I'm looking at my phone constantly, you know, and I've got a lovely small team who help me, but still you've got to check the social media and update blogs. And that's not a good balance. And I've realised this year the balance of my work-life shift has to change now. And I actually have to, you know, I think the book is the icing on the cake and I need to spend the next year actually focusing a bit more inward because I need to be there for everyone.
I love that.
We'll see. We'll see. The proof will be in the pudding, but I'm determined to try. Yeah.
Well, I think, but even having that awareness and then the intention of what you need and what you deserve for yourself is imperative. And I think we can all take a note from that, can't we?
For sure. And thank you for the work you've done for everybody because it's really important.
Well,
you know,
you've changed the space. You and other women have changed the space. And I always say, if it wasn't for the people doing what they're doing, I would be one of those women that would have had to have come out of the workplace. I wouldn't be able to cope. Yeah. So thank you, a big thank you, because the education for me has been life-changing.
Oh, I'm pleased. Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on. And I'll be listening to you a lot more than myself now over this next year, for sure.
Listen, some shows are a little bit, more informative than others.
What do you mean? The banana peel Botox was amazing.
Yeah, it was a fun show. I wouldn't recommend it.
And good luck with the book, Katie.
Thank you.
Katie, how can people find your platforms and tell us where they can get your book?
So the book, Midlife Matters, which I'm doing it that way, wrong way, I don't know. Anyway, it's coming out March the 6th, DK Red. It's at their new label, so that's very exciting. And in America, that's the UK, and in America on the 18th, and all sort of online and normal bookshops. You can look on my social media. It's at Lounge. The Latte is Instagram. The Latte Lounge is the Facebook page and group. And you'll see there all the links where to buy it and where to get support from us. And yeah, we've got a fantastic team. So if you want to join the Facebook group, if you're struggling with anything, that's what we're there for, really. We're just there to support you.
And it is I'm on it, and it is a very supportive space,
Yeah,
I have to say.
Great group.
I think it is. And I think now the thing I'm most proud about, sort of mummy pride of the group, is that everyone now, they can almost do without us.
They talk to each other.
Yeah, they're all helping each other.
Yeah.
And I feel reassured that they're all giving each other brilliant advice now, which was probably very different at the beginning. So everyone's,
takes a village.
Yeah, exactly.
It does take a village.
And I hope you like your little gifts, which you don't have to say, I brought them some little
She
goodies.
brought us lube, okay? Just say it. She was very proud to have brought it for us.
Everyone needs a bit of lube in their life now or later or never.
Save it for a rainy day, Katie.
There's your soundbite.
Oh, no.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today,